Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey is heading for an absolute train wreck box office disaster that could make Maui and Moana look like nothing, could have everybody forgetting about how much Supergirl super stunk, because this one is getting a 10x negative ratio on YouTube. And now one of the lead actresses, the girl who plays Helen of Troy, well, she just unfurled one heck of a criticism at none other than Homer, the historic writer from thousands of years ago, because maybe he was not strong enough with the writing of women. You know, folks, winning is all we do right here on the Pro Channel, and it's all because of you. We thank you, an attitude of gratitude every time you decide to click on one of these videos. Let's dive in today with a PhD level of understanding into just how DUM some of the Hollyweirds might be, including, I'm afraid this time, one Mr. Christopher Nolan. It's a contentious debate. Click the like button, and the wait is now over. It's the silence of the fans. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey trailer surges past 500,000 dislikes. But guess what? They're trying to stop the negativity. Official X accounts is now limiting the replies. I can't imagine why. This image, I can't figure out why. Who is our friend here playing, by the way? Do we have confirmation yet?
It's not a character from The Odyssey. It is a character from a different poem of time.
The Aeneid.
Yeah, the Aeneid.
Okay. Whoa. Well, okay then. Paige, the artist formerly known as other things, but Paige is playing who, though, from the Aeneid?
Lauren, do you remember the name of the character?
It begins with an S.
S, yeah.
It does begin with an S. I don't recall, though. Let me look real quick.
Okay, well, we'll get there in a second, but going to be a very strong fighter, indeed. The Odyssey has been buried in YouTube dislikes. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey has become one of the most talked about movies of the year, but not necessarily for the reasons Universal Pictures may have hoped. The acclaimed filmmaker's adaptation of Homer's legendary Greek epic is facing a growing wave of online criticism. After the official trailer accumulated more than 500,000 estimated dislikes, the controversy has only expanded as fans notice the film's official X account limiting replies on certain promotional posts featuring Nolan and the cast. Whoa, Nelly, look at that one. That is horrific. That is a massive ratio. Wow, we're in worst of the worst territory right now.
We're in Snow White territory. At
yeah,
this point.
10x, 65,000 likes compared to 554,000 dislikes. There's no holding this back. Christopher Nolan is in territory I don't think he's ever experienced before. But folks, we're gonna play an interview in just a second that will blow you away. Hang on, we'll get there. But first, Wiz, you've talked about The Odyssey being sort of the coup de grace, the creme de la creme of watching Hollywood fail badly, and this could be the end of whatever it is they've been trying to do. Walk us through your thesis here.
Yeah, this is the last stand of Hollywood. If you look back at classic Hollywood, everything that it represented, and think about what classic Hollywood was founded on. It was taking ancient stories and then putting them to motion pictures. You had Ben-Hur, the Ten Commandments. You had these, and I would say that it ended like that whole mega monolith movie making. I think the last one was really Lawrence of Arabia, right? Like you had that whole era, and that was many decades. This is that all over again, but in just in a different way. Whereas back then, those stories were told in a sense of adapting them. You were adapting those stories and bringing them to new audiences, told in different ways. You were adapting to the language of the time, spoken in the way of the time. But today, you have the complete opposite of that. This story, the way that Christopher Nolan is taking it, firstly, you've taken a story that has been adapted 2 times over. So it's been adapted one way, then adapted another way by the original author here that they're citing from. And then on top of that, you've injected all of the most recognizable faces of modern day Hollywood into this film. Okay. And then of course it is an ancient story being retold. This story and what they are doing and what Nolan is doing, he is not adapting the Odyssey. He is not honoring the original story. He is extracting value from it. He is replacing it. That is the point of this. This is a replacement. Everything we see in Hollywood today is not meant to be faithful adaptations. It is meant to replace them. And I would take it even another step further. It is not to replace it for us. We know the Odyssey. We still think to look up the Odyssey. This is not done for us. It is done for our children.
And the Odyssey, just to clarify, the Odyssey is not only a historic and very important story because we're going back into the first storytelling, some of the first stories that people told and wrote down and maintained. It's a massive story. It's also foundational to the West, and it's foundational to the hero's journey, Wiz. So it seems like they're going after this.
Period.
Right, right.
It is one of the defining, as you said, it's, the hero myth. This is one of the most defining stories to human existence and how we define storytelling. Like, this is one of those stories.
So why Christopher Nolan then? Why, of all the people, Wiz, why does, what is it? Why did he suddenly say to himself, okay, I'm going to be the guy who goes after one of the most foundational stories, that sets up everything we're doing with movie telling, storytelling, and I'm going to run it through the postmodern neo-Marxist filter?
Because he is Mr. Hollywood. He is Hollywood now. Everybody he's cast to be a part of this, everybody working on this is Hollywood. This movie, we talk about box office break-even point. No. This movie needs to hit $1 billion at the box office, and they are going to try to pull out all the possible stops to do that. And so it needs to hit $1 billion. It can't just break even. I think we're, like Wicked, how Wicked was intended. Oh, well, each Wicked movie was meant to make $1 billion. So is the Odyssey. He had this big come up. It is as if it was planned. You had this big come up where everybody, all the normies that hadn't already bought in on Nolan with Oppenheimer. Oh, Oppenheimer was great. What a good movie. Got all these awards, big name. And now everybody is talking about this. This is the ultimate. This is Revenge of Hollywood. This is the Empire Strikes Back. If this is the revenge for after how we retreated Snow White, for how we treated things like Star Wars, for how people like us have been pointing out what's wrong with Hollywood, and the fact that normies are completely detached from what Hollywood is doing. That is what this is. This is, can we prove them wrong? So they are pulling out every stop possible. Even right now, you've got people running damage control saying that if you criticize the Odyssey, you're transphobic. If you criticize the Odyssey, you're racist.
So I'm going to play
exactly what they want.
I'm going to play one of the most shocking interviews a celebrity has ever given, and that's really saying something. But first, Wiz, I don't call for boycotts. I try to detach myself from that sort of thing. I try to be a little bit separate. I know that sometimes you'll do that, and I don't have any problem with it at all. It's just it's my own internal thing that I do. But this one, I think, I'm not going to call for a boycott. I think this has to fail. Like, I think this needs to fail more than almost any other movie we dealt with.
If I may correct the record real quick. I don't like the idea of boycott as a mass movement. I'm not interested in picket signs. And all I talk about is for buyers and customers out there. If you're a customer, is be informed and make your own decisions. Don't do anything that anybody else is telling you to do. If there isn't, we're going to boycott this movie. We got to get all these people. No. It's an individual choice to not be involved in something. And I think, to your point, if people are educated on what this movie represents, they're going to actively choose to not see it and not give it its money, not give it any money. This thing needs to be silenced, but only because people are making a conscious effort themselves to individually not be involved.
All right, here's End of Wokeness. Lupita is asked, what is one thing you would say to Homer? Of course, Homer is the author of this, or supposedly, it's hard to say, but historians believe probably. But Homer is from far, far long ago, thousands and thousands of years ago. So you have the chance to talk to somebody who essentially started the idea of the hero's journey, or at least was a part of that very early foundational concept that we've been doing that for the thousands of years since. And here's what our genius, who, by the way, according to her own admission, she didn't even know what the Odyssey was until she was cast, which if you've graduated high school or if you've gone to college for 1 year, you should know what the Odyssey is. You should know what the Iliad is. And I'm not trying to offend anybody out there who might be listening who says, well, I missed that in school. I got it. I understand. Maybe your teacher wanted to stay with The Great Gatsby a little bit too long, but you should know. This is one of those things that if you're a learned person, you should know. She didn't even know what it was. Now she's cast, and here's what she says.
I'd be like, so Homer, how do you feel about the screen time given to these women, considering how little you spend with them? Oh, okay.
And then do you lean?
Oh, sick burn on Homer, yo. You got that Homer, man. You got him burned.
With them.
Like,
okay.
And then do you lean forward and look at him like that?
Yes, like,
Solo. This is
the single worst thing that this group of people could have possibly done.
Why?
Is you should be taking the temperature down, not now let's go out and attack the original. Now let's go out and take a 3,000-year-old piece of history. I get mad enough when they insert like 2026 political values on like Walt Disney, and he died in the 60s. Homer lived 1,000 years before Christ.
Back then, he was so learned and erudite that he pronounced it dough.
Dough, you say?
But like how? Like
I got that joke.
How dare a man 3,000 years ago, at a time when only men ever fought, not have like female warriors in his thing? Like, it's insane.
He's so inferior to Wakanda. Like, really? I mean, Homer, what are you doing, man? Get with the times. Get with the times, Homer. All right, Tabitha, you've heard this laid out now. Your thoughts on Christopher Nolan and the Odyssey. And maybe we're just, maybe I'm making too much out of this. Maybe Wiz is too. I don't know. What say you? Is this a big movie that needs to fail bigly for Hollywood to get a big message?
I don't think it needs to fail for Hollywood to get a big message, because Hollywood's been failing for years and they don't care. So if you're apathetic, it doesn't matter how well or how badly your film does. But I don't care that much about the outcome of this film. I am curious to see what will happen, because Nolan has the reputation for producing very interesting, some would say deep, films like Inception. And even though nobody totally understands Tenet, there are a lot of really amazing elements to the creativity that went into Tenet and all the other films that he does. Christopher Nolan has an aesthetic choice. I don't remember ever reading where he said he was going to make this movie authentic. I know that he cherry picks what he does and does not want to be authentic, like the music. He was saying that he would want that to be more authentic to the time frame. From what I've read and understood, he is adapting, if we want to use this word, this film based off of two different versions of the book, the original, and then the Emily, Wilson translation, which highlights more of the female aspect or whatever of this book. One thing that I will say as a devil's advocate is that when you're especially when they're successful the way they are like this, he doesn't need money, not really, right? So what if he's just like, I want to do something wild. I want to do my interpretation of whatever, and I don't have to care what anybody says. There are times that creative people do this because they're bored. They don't know what else to do. And so they're like, I am going to make something not necessarily intentionally controversial, but not unaware that they're making something controversial. But it's just like, this is how I want to see the movie. He says that he likes Lupita Nyongo for her grace and what besides the what she's just recently said in an interview prior to these things, because this was filmed, way back, that maybe he does see her as beautiful and he would like to have this interpretation of her being the woman that people would fight wars over, because beauty is subjective and all this. And because he's not staying true to the book, he is allowed to do whatever. The other thing is that I think there's a certain weight that comes with your name, and that we as the moviegoers suddenly feel very entitled. That it's like, oh, it's Christopher Nolan. Why do we expect Christopher Nolan to produce something that's authentic to history, to culture? Why do we put that expectation on him? I know why I put that expectation on him, because I would like a more historically accurate film. But at the same time, it's just the same way that we preach to liberals who don't like conservative films. If you don't like it, don't go see it.
Well, I think that's what we're talking about is that's probably going to happen, and it's probably going to lose a lot of money. But I wonder if it's part of a larger, like, this is not its own thing, but it's actually part of a larger movement that continuously is attempting to do these sorts of things in an effort to sort of tug away at the foundations of Western civilization and make them be sort of made a mockery, right? The idea of a lot of these things that we hold dear.
It could. I tried to do the research. I'm not going to pretend like I know everything. I know that, again, Christopher Nolan has a reputation for making outstanding films. And so we are also in a war for, you know, historical accuracy, the whole whitewashing, or, well, not whitewashing anymore. The other, you say what you say, the
whatever the opposite of that
whatever is, yeah, you know, colorizing, you know, history, all this kind of stuff, where the pendulum has swung, where we came out and tried to be more authentic, you know, versus like, you know, Elizabeth Taylor as, you know, a Macedonian queen. She did a great job. Was it accurate? No. Did we care? No. But then we try to get more historically accurate, and then now it's swinging full circle the other way. And I don't know. I can't say whether or not Christopher Nolan has this history of spinning things into the liberal light. I know he has a great reputation for creating great films that are sometimes out of the box and extraordinary. And I try to be careful because I'm not naive. I understand there is a war for culture. There is a war for the children. There's a war for the nuclear family. So I just sometimes, as a creative person, sometimes I just wonder, are we so overpowered by the negativity of Hollywood and what they do that when it comes to the creative process, do we condemn too harshly, too quickly? I don't know. There is a lot that is really bizarre with this film, but at the same time, has Christopher Nolan earned, you know, this outpouring of dislike? Not necessarily. We do believe he deserves the dislike outpouring for some of the casting choices and things like that. But as far as his version of this movie, I do also believe that we have to be careful that we are not entitled to a historically accurate Odyssey.
The way I kind of approach it, and I'd love to hear Andy's thought on this, is, you know, I try to stay away from the idea of deserving when we're making something for mass consumption. And that's what this is, right? There's a lot of money that's being invested in this. I tend to think about, well, the market is the ultimate judge of all of this, right? The market, whatever that means, the vast number of people, potential consumers, the all potentiality of what you could gather up in terms of human interest. And when I see this 10x dislike ratio, Andy, what I take away from that is, whether it's deserved, whether he should be trusted or whatnot, the market speaks. I don't get to say what the market thinks, but the market has spoken, and the market seems to be saying loudly, this is not what they're interested in.
I find it peculiar that his casting in this just happens to go right along with what the Oscar requirements say, that if you want your film considered for an Oscar, you have to have this many boxes checked. He's got enough accolades that he really doesn't need it, but he also doesn't need the money either. Now, I wonder if his people in Hollywood are saying, look, you know, all the woke stuff is on life support. If you can make it work, then maybe there's a chance that we could justify bringing it back and saying, you know, you just didn't have the right kind of woke, and we'll try it again. I think that this is sort of if Christopher Nolan can get it done, then maybe there is something to it. That's just speculation on my part, like, because I see Hollywood as rather incestuous. They do some really tacky things for strange reasons. They find causes because they're so far removed from having to worry about paying a mortgage, your car breaking down, or getting your kids to school and feeding them. I think a lot of the people that are in the audience with, especially these younger generations, the only Homer they know is Simpson. And, you know, I got your joke there, Lauren. I was like, as I was thinking along the same lines.
Do you mean?
Don't, Gilbert Flanders. But they really need to, I'm hoping that this doesn't do well, just because I would love to see an authentic Odyssey. I would love to see something. I would love to see an authentic 10 Commandments with somebody besides Yul Brynner and Charlton Heston that actually looks the part. I mean, look how popular The Chosen is with certain groups, and it looks authentically cast. It's, you know, we should be looking to get beyond that, not for payback, if that's what this is. And I think that no matter how good the film is, it's going to be weighed down by all this controversy, and I think unnecessarily. So whatever happens at the box office, there's going to be some people that will go see it because they want to see what the controversy is all about. There's some people that will go see it just to stick it to the people that complain about it. But I think there's a lot of people that just aren't going to be interested in it.
Well, I'll tell you too, as I look at it, I kind of think about how we predicted this. Earlier in the year, we said, the 2026 box office is going to be really huge in the early year. And it was. Project Hail Mary was huge. Michael was huge. The Mario movie did huge box office numbers. And this summer, outside of Toy Story, is really falling apart. I mean, so I think if studios want to learn anything about making money, not art, not awards, but money, I think I know the way. I think we saw the films that will make a lot of money, and we're seeing some opportunities here and things like, Young Washington. But Lauren, quite the change from the spring to the summer, and I think Hollywood's got a choice to make going forward. I don't think they'll make the right choice. I don't know, but I think there's a fork in the road, and they get to decide: do you want money or do you not want money?
Yeah, I think that they think that right now they're past the point of worrying about money, although they should be. And I would agree with Tabitha in a sense that you are not entitled to historical accuracy, but on the other hand, there is a time and a place for everything. And if you're going to do something that is, say, an injection of something else into the story, such as making Helen central, which she is not in the text. She is the face that launched 1,000 ships, but she is not the focus of the story. If you want to tell Helen's story, call it Helen. Don't call it the Odyssey. You can do a story like that, similar to something like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, if you want to do something like that. But you're calling it the Odyssey. And when you are introducing this other take on the text that is deliberately provocative, you are casting it as you are when you have seen the audience reactions to those types of recastings. This does not feel like me to be an artistic choice. It feels like it is deliberately trying to rub the audience's nose in something. And when you do that, you'll reap what you deserve. I suspect that Wiz is right, that this is Hollywood's. They think this is going to be The Empire Strikes Back. I suspect it's actually going to be the audience striking harder, and they will regret making these choices, in my opinion.
So what does the historical accuracy thing mean, though? You're not entitled to historical accuracy.
Me?
What does that mean? Well, either of you both said it.
Well, given the fact that this is entertainment. Now, if this was going to be a book that was meant for educational purposes. Now, I'm also of two minds where we do need to be careful. When you are in a position like Christopher Nolan is, where your name is up here, I am also of the belief that you need to be careful with the decisions that you make because you influence millions. I would say, yes, I want a more authentic Odyssey as told by Christopher Nolan. But at the same time, why do I expect that from him? I could read the book.
Taking something from the past.
But we have lots of cinema throughout history where they redid things. Last in the Mohicans, the film was not a perfect adaptation of the book.
Project Hail Mary, not a perfect adaptation.
Not a perfect adaptation, but also, but also not historical. The Odyssey, I will, it's one of those things where it's like, I am on the train of that. We need to preserve history, 100%. We need to respect and value culture, 100%. I think that we are in a war that sometimes there is an imbalance in our outrage where we seem to be okay with some measure of change here because we're okay with it versus here. And I think a lot of times it does have to do with these press tours and these idiot actors who cannot seem to rub two brain cells together to understand that when you attack the fans, when you attack the person that wrote the book, whatever the case might be, you're alienating. And instead of elevating, like we agree, Supergirl, terrible film. terrible words from the press tour. However, the lady that played Lois Lane from Superman, she was on the red carpet for Supergirl and gave an amazing interview where she upheld the movie without being political. She also talked about good things for Superman. Like, she was inspiring, she was encouraging. She said nice things about James Gunn that were not so descriptive as to be like, he's the best thing since sliced bread, but she respected her boss, essentially. That was so classy. It doesn't take much to do that, but it seems harder for these young people to do that because they themselves feel like they're out, and imperfect.
Well, they're narcissists, right?
They're narcissistic. And so I think that there's a careful thing when we are so harsh on a film that is never been said to be historically accurate. But then again, we have books like Last of the Mohicans, which is based off of historical events, but is not true necessarily to the book. But we're okay with it.
Somebody told me that Pocahontas is not accurate, and I just want to say I believe that Grandmother Willow Tree is historical. I believe it fully. Go ahead, Wiz.
But the Last of the Mohicans movie was not there to replace the book. Whereas in this case, it is being made to replace, and it's not just like, oh, Nolan's out to do it. It is, whether planned, whether it goes up on a dry erase board or not, whether it just happens by accident. The culture of Hollywood now is
to
replacement.
Fix it.
And again, I agree. When great power comes great responsibility. But I also do believe that that's why it's so important, number, to read, for families to be involved with each other's lives, to be careful what you watch and what you let your children watch.
That's something we can't fix, though. I use Rings of Power as the example here. Yeah, okay, not everybody watches Rings of Power, but it still had plenty of people that watched it. Normies watch this. Normies with their children watch this, and then they walk away thinking they have a grasp on Tolkien. People are going to see the upcoming Narnia movie, which is The Magician's Nephew, which, to my knowledge, has never gotten an adaptation. They've moved it from Victorian London to rock and roll era 1900s. Okay, Aslan, Jesus Christ Jesus Christ in Narnia is now being played by oh gosh,
was it Meryl Streep?
Who they say is the goat? Meryl Streep, thank you, is now being played. Aslan,
she loves Harvey. And she loves Harvey.
It is an absolute replacement, and normies are seeing this and they're going, I understand C.S. Lewis, because they're not reading. The reading rates are down across the entire West, big time. The people who are reading are, respectfully, it's women reading 50 Shades of Grey. Okay, like that's the majority of readers now. Fantasy is down. Biographies are down. Even Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer is a biography based on Oppenheimer, and then this movie is an adaptation of that biography. We are now 2 steps away from the truth, and and that is compounding. So when we talk about like the historical accuracy thing, like, yeah, Odyssey is obviously a fantasy, and Lauren, I'm going to let you take over, but like, it matters more now than ever before, because now there's a generation of kids that are like, Supergirl is stupid, whereas Supergirl has some incredible comics. There are a generation that think that, oh, it's okay for Superman to be pissed on by the dog. It's like, what? He-Man. Every time He-Man got any agency in his movie, they dragged him back down and made fun of him. Toy Story 5 spends half the movie chewing on Woody and turning Buzz effeminate. It's like, it's everything, it's everywhere, and it's meant to replace what we founded humanity on. It's not even just us. It is actually not about any of us. It is about the future. What we talk about here every single day, we talk about the Kimmel stuff and the little things. None of that matters anymore. Like, after this summer, I feel like a change. I thought last summer was bad with Acolyte. I feel like a changed human being after. Don't forget
about One Battle After Another last year, which I think this is the 2.0 version of that, where they manifested their dreams of harming their political opponents and then gave it award after award after the market rejected it.
It's not even like, oh my gosh, Elliot Page is playing who? It's not even that. That is scratching the surface. That's not even scratching the surface. It's about changing how our children perceive and believe in heroes.
Well, okay,
so nothing to do with race or sexuality or gender. None of that. That is all surface level. None of that is real.
Let me add this, and then we'll go to Lauren. We also saw it in the ghoulish post from one of the trades that said that Rob Reiner got the final laugh against Trump because he's in some role. And I had to comment on it and say, if your son deletes you from this world, your son, there is no last laugh. That is a horrendous, heinous, tragic way that no one surely deserves. But they had to rewrite that as well. He has to be deleted by his own son and yet get some sort of political victory. Lauren, that's what I worry about, is the constant need to rewrite these things.
Yeah, the thing is, I do think that there's room for interpretation, and I'm never going to be one of those guys who is going to criticize the movie purely based on the race swaps, because I think that's playing their game. I don't want to be locked into the thing of saying that only people of a particular race can play this character. I think that a fantastic performance can elevate something so that it works. However, to give that kind of a performance, you actually have to be familiar with the source material, which Lupita Nyongo said she was not familiar with the Odyssey.
Never heard of it.
Which kind of blows my mind, being as she's university educated, and we had to read it in high school. So, and you also have Christopher Nolan taking this through his normal lens. Christopher Nolan has some discomfort with more fantastical elements of his storytelling. He likes to be more grounded. Obviously, this can't be a purely historical story because it is mythologized history through the Greek lens. But he's planning to ground that more as well. And so my issue with this is that, as Wiz said, you can adapt the text straight and probably gain the most level of respect. If you're planning to do your spin on it or change the focus, you need to call it something else. And I think that the real tragedy here is we haven't had a real genuine epic in a while. And it would be nice to see a real genuine epic played straight, so that maybe we could start getting these movies again. And I have a feeling the Odyssey is going to kill any chance of that happening for a good long time, and that's a bigger tragedy than the movie itself.
Well, I don't understand why anyone thought that he was ever going to do an accurate version of the Odyssey. The guy couldn't even give you an accurate Bane in The Dark Knight Rises.
He is supposed to be Canadian. That is true.
Parting is such sweet sorrow, ladies and gentlemen. It's only made sweet because there's more content on the way. We never stop. It drives the Holly Weirds mad, but we've got decades left in the can, and we keep going and going and going. Oh, wait. Are we showing our cards? That's right. We'll never stop going near and far and sending out the content you love. Folks, you can help us continue to do just that. Smash that like button. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.